Hello reception, thanks for joining me today for our literacy lesson. Now this week we're going to be looking at a story called Treasures in the Garden, and it's all about a little boy and his sister who go exploring in their garden on a lovely summer's day. Now, before we start, I want to show you something. Do you remember a few months ago, we learned how to describe a picture or an illustration? And what an illustration means? That's right, an illustration is a picture in a book that helps to tell a story. Now, this picture here, let me move my face. I'm going to move my face all the way down there so you get a better view. Now, this picture is at the start of our story. And wow, look at all the incredible things that we can see in this story, in this picture, in this illustration. And this is going to be helping us with what's going to be happening in the story. Now, we're going to remember how to describe an illustration. So I'm going to go first, and then I'd like you to pause the video, and I'd like you to choose an area of the illustration that you can describe at home. So I'm going to describe the little pond in the middle of the garden. So first of all, I think that this is somebody's back garden. I can see a house with some doors and some steps leading down to a little path that goes all the way round the inside of the garden. And just outside the house, in between a red tree and a really wide big tree, is a little pond. And the pond is surrounded by rocks. And they're fairly large rocks. At the back of the pond is a little waterfall, and I can imagine hearing the sounds of the water rushing down into the pond. Sitting at the pond is a little gnome, and I think he's fishing. He looks really, really happy. Now, I'd like you to pause the video now, and I'd like you to choose a part of this garden that you are going to describe. So part of the illustration that you are going to describe, and then you can tell your teddy, you can tell your helper all about it. Pause the video now. Good job. That was fantastic. So let's have a quick look at all the different areas to see what our story might be about. All I can see over here, if we carry on round past the pond, I can see a sand pit, and it looks like there might be some treasure in the sand pit. Wow. And if we carry on, I can see a little tea party down there. Maybe someone's going to have some special tea. And if we carry on, there's a bike and a skipping rope. Ooh, and if you look to the right-hand corner, I can see a wizard. Looks like a wizard sitting there. I wonder who that wizard is going to be in our story. Shall we start reading? Okay, so what we're going to be doing with this story, we're going to be reading it. But while we're reading it, we're going to be thinking about how the character, the main character, how he's going to be feeling and how his feelings might change throughout the story. Let's go. It was a lovely, sunny Saturday morning when Jake realised that he'd lost his favourite teddy. He looked under his bed and behind the sofa. He checked in his sister's room and searched in all the drawers. He took out all of his toys from the toy box and even went to see if Mum had put his teddy in the washing machine. But his teddy was nowhere to be found. Now, I think that he's going to be feeling really sad. I'd like you to pause the video and with your helper, think if you can find any other words to describe how Jake might be feeling now that he can't find his teddy. Pause the video now. Well done. He might be feeling sad. He might be feeling really worried. He might think, what if I never find my teddy again? He might be feeling a bit lonely. Maybe he's thinking, I'm used to giving my teddy a lovely cuddle, but now my teddy's gone and I don't know where he is. Maybe he's feeling a little bit frustrated. He's looking everywhere and he thinks, but I still can't find my teddy. Well done for thinking about how Jake might be feeling at this point in the story. Jake became very upset When his big sister Holly asked him to play, he shook his head. He felt too sad to play any games. Suddenly, Holly thought of a brilliant idea. "We can look for your teddy in the garden," smiled Holly. Jake hadn't looked in the garden yet, so he followed her outside. Maybe Jake's teddy was out there somewhere. I wonder how he's feeling now. I think he might be feeling a little bit hopeful because he hadn't checked the garden yet. I think he's feeling hopeful. Oh, we've gone too far. First, they look for the teddy in the deepest depths of the sea, surrounded by beautiful mermaids and shimmering fish. Now, do you think they're actually in the sea? Where do you think they might be? Do you think they're playing down by the pond? I think you might be right. A mermaid with a pink tail and wavy fins gave Jake some sparkling shells, which she put into Holly's bag. Thank you. Holly and Jake checked under every rock, but they couldn't find his teddy. Oh, I wonder how he's feeling now. He might be feeling grateful because he's got some special sparkling shells. But he still hasn't found his teddy. Oh dear. Where are they going next? Next, they crept bravely onto a huge pirate ship. Holly and Jake hid behind a treasure chest so the shouting pirate captain with the bushy black beard couldn't see them. Jake grabbed some shiny coins from the chest and put them in Holly's bag. He had to cover his mouth so the pirate captain couldn't hear him giggling. But they still couldn't find Jake's teddy. Something tells me that he's feeling a little bit happier at this point in the story. I'd like you to pause the video now and talk to your grown-up about what you think, what clues we've got that maybe Jake's feeling a little bit happier. That's right. Here we can see the word giggling. Jake had to cover his mouth so the captain couldn't hear him giggling. If we're giggling, we're feeling a little bit happier, aren't we? Is it going to turn? There we go. After that, they climbed aboard a rocket travelling into space, dodging strange aliens and whizzing past enormous planets. They landed on the moon and floated outside. Holly showed Jake some bright glowing space rocks and added them to her bag. Jake's teddy wasn't there either. I do think, though, from the illustrations, if we look at the illustrations, it looks like Jake and his sister are having a really fun time playing this imaginative game together, going on all these special, exciting places, even though he hasn't yet found his teddy. Let's see. Soon afterwards, they spied a large red dragon relaxing in a tall green tree. "Hello," he said, snapping his sharp teeth together. "Will you join me for tea?" They sat and ate some scrumptious tea with Dragon, who gave Jake some of his rough red scales. Jake grinned and thanked him, but the dragon hadn't seen his teddy either. We've got some more clues here about how Jake might be feeling at this point in the story. I'd like you to pause the video and I'd like you to talk to your helper about what clues we can find in this part of the story to tell us about how Jake might be feeling. That's right. You can see from the illustrations that Jake is really smiling, isn't he? He looks like he's having a really, really fun time with his sister and the dragon. There's also some words in the text that help us. Jake grinned and thanked him. What does grinned mean? Grin means do a really, really big smile. So Jake must be starting to feel really happy, even though he still hasn't found his teddy. Then Jake and Holly, let me move my camera, found themselves in a dark, creepy wood where a wizard with a very long beard sat on a rock. "Hello, would you like to learn some magic tricks?" asked the wizard. Feeling excited, Jake nodded, and the wizard gave them each a glittering wand. He taught them to make sparkles and all sorts of amazing magic tricks. Jake had such a lovely time that he forgot to ask the wizard if he had seen his teddy. Now, in this part of the story, we've got another clue about how Jake might be feeling. Can you remember the word that we heard? Oh, that's right. It said here up at the top, feeling excited. Feeling excited, Jake nodded. He was excited about learning some magic tricks, wasn't he? And at the bottom of the page, it tells us something about how Jake's feeling as well. Jake had such a lovely time that he forgot to ask the wizard if he'd seen his teddy. Wow, so what's happening here then? Jake's having such an incredible time that he forgot to ask the wizard if he'd seen the teddy. What does that tell us? That's right. Jake's feeling is so distracted with the wonderful, exciting things that he's doing. He's actually forgotten about his teddy for now. Finally, they heard wonderful music playing in an enchanted forest and found some fairies dancing between the flowers. Holly and Jake danced with the fairies, who wore soft flower petals and acorns as hats. The pretty fairy queen was so impressed by their dancing that she put silver twinkling crowns on their heads and smiled. Wow, it looks like they are having a wonderful time. Feeling worn out, Holly and Jake sat down in the middle of the garden and took all of the treasures out of Holly's bag to examine them. They had collected, oh look, a shell from a mermaid, a golden coin from a pirate, space rocks from the moon, a scale from a dragon, wands from a wizard, crowns from a fairy queen. What an exciting adventure with such wonderful discoveries. Do you want to go inside and see if Mum has found your teddy? Holly asked. Jake realised that he'd forgotten that they were looking for his teddy all along. He'd been having such a good time, he'd even forgotten how sad he'd been that morning. We can ask Mum about my teddy later, he said happily. I'm having too much fun playing in the garden with you. And that is the end of our story. Do you think that Jake ever found his teddy? I wonder. But wow, didn't Jake come on a big journey with his feelings? He started off feeling so sad, so upset that he couldn't think about anything else. And as the story went on, he felt happier and happier and happier. And by the end, he'd forgotten all about his teddy bear. So what I would like you to do now is, let me get my board and pen with some paper and a pencil. I'd like you to draw the different parts of the story to show how he was feeling. So at the beginning of the story, he was feeling really sad and upset. Then his sister suggested that they could go and play outside and look outside. How did he start feeling then? He was a little bit, I'm going to do a line. He was a bit hopeful. And then by the end of the story, he was excited, wasn't he? He was having such a great time. So what I would like you to do is, with your helper, I'd like you to draw the different emotions that, what was the boy's name again? Jake was feeling throughout the story. And I'd like you to think about different words to describe them. And you could even do much better drawing than me. You could show the different parts of the story where he was feeling excited. So, he was feeling so excited on this part, wasn't he? When they were dancing. So you could even draw next to excited some fairies dancing. You can do it however you want to do it. Okay, reception.